Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well today. I'm going to be bringing you another tutorial here for the F-16, and this one is going to be about the MFDs, the multifunction displays that we have here in the F-16. We have two of them. They are these digital displays to the left and right of this kind of center console there. And surrounding each one of them are 20 OSB buttons here. And I guess these center three are direct access buttons, which are used to select the different pages that you can have saved here. You also have a declutter one, which will declutter things on certain pages, and swap, which will swap the positions of the left and right MFDs. Also, on the outside of the display with these buttons, you have gain, symbology brightness, and contrast, which are obviously for adjusting the brightness and contrast, things like that, gain on the targeting pod, things like that. So, unlike in the Hornet, for example, where you have like menu pages and then you have all the different things around that, the F-16's MFDs work slightly differently. So you have 3 saved pages at the bottom there, which you can swap out. By default, you have the 2 here on the right MFD, which are the SMIS, the Stores Management System page, and the HSD, the Horizontal Situation Display. Now, the SMIS page will display the different stores that you have. So I have 2 AIM-120 Bravos on the wingtips. I have AGM-88 harm on each one, and it shows the pylon that it's on, as well as 2 drop tanks on the inboard pylons, one under each wing, an ALQ-131 pod, and I have my 510 rounds of gun and the type of ammo for that. And the HSD page, which is probably one of the most important pages that I always have up. I don't have any waypoints and there are no radars here, but if I did, then you would see that you would see rings basically in red or yellow for the maximum ranges for the missiles. You'll also see the different points in different places for the different waypoints, as well as a line connecting all of them. It'll indicate what you are, it'll put a crosshair basically on the waypoint that you have selected or where you have your targeting pod slewed to. These rings here also, they indicate, so you see we have our range currently set to 60 nautical miles. So this outer ring is 60 miles, the middle one is 40, and then the innermost one is 20. And so if you go to 120, then the same thing here, 120, 90, and 60. So it's just basically divides it into thirds, so you can more easily estimate the distance to things that you see on your HSD there. This blue symbol here is indicates your aircraft, and the blue line here is the radar scan pattern. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the everything on each page, but I am going to focus on the most important ones. For future tutorials where I'm focusing on something more specific, for example the targeting pod or the HTS, then I will go into more detail on all of the symbology that's on those pages when I do that. But for the time being, for this video, I'm going to mainly talk about what the most important pages are, and things like that. So here on our left MFD, we have our 3 default pages of the fire control radar, currently set to air-to-air mode. That's going to be for locking and detecting air-to-air targets and employing weapons against them. Additionally, there is an air-to-ground mode for that too, which again will be discussed in a future video. We have our test page, which has all kinds of different tests that you can do, but I don't think that most of them actually do anything. So I generally use, this is generally the first page that I swap out, which I'll show you how to do in just a second. Now, the DTE page, the data transfer equipment page, is used to load the data cartridge that you prepared during the mission planning. This is a new feature that was just added to DCS, actually, and at the moment, the main functions are like countermeasures programs and things like that, but eventually it's going to be updated and it'll be used for things like waypoints. Additionally, something that's in it right now is preset radio frequencies, so you can adjust those and then load them into the jet via the DTE page. Now I'm going to show you how to switch out the pages, because these are not the only pages that you have. So to do that, you want to select whichever page you want to swap out. So for example, test, and then you want to click it again, and it'll take you to all of these different pages here. So in a second I will select one of these, but I'm just going to briefly go through what each one of these are. So the blank page is, it's a blank one, so it just says blank. I don't know why you would ever do that. I have never found a reason to do that. I always like to have something useful up on each one of my MFDs. The HAD display is for the harm attack display, which is used to, or in conjunction with your AGM-88 harms, and requires you to have that HTS pod there attached to the jet. And this is a way of finding radars to engage with your harms. The recce page here is used with reconnaissance pods, but we don't have those in DCS, so you can disregard that. Fire control radar is to bring up your FCR page, or FCR is for the radar. Targeting pod is for the targeting pod here. So if you set that to air-to-ground mode, for example, set it to white hot, whatever. Again, that will be gone over again in more detail in the future, but that is for your targeting page. And adjust the brightness there with it if you want to, or the contrast. Weapons page, this is going to be used to employ your... You can use it with the AGM-88 harms. There are some ways of employing it by using that. Additionally, that page is going to be used for your AGM-65 Mavericks. The TFR is the terrain following radar, which is not functional in the Block 50 and DCS. It requires the an AAQ-13 Lantern Nav Pod, which is generally used in the Block 40 F-16s. I don't know off the top of my head if Block 50s or other blocks ever were able to use those pods and therefore the terrain following radar, but regardless, in DCS we don't have it, so it doesn't matter. FLIR page is also only used in the Block 40 F-16s with the AN AAQ-13 nav pod and the war HUD, which is that big HUD that you see on some F-16s, which can display the FLIR, the forward-looking infrared, on the HUD, kind of like you have in, a Harrier or a Strike Eagle. Strike Eagle, which has the AN AAQ-13 nav pod, but again, we don't have that. SMIS page is like I talked about earlier. We can pull that up and see all of our stores. Additionally, something to note, if you didn't notice that when I selected the SMIS page here, it removed it from our right MFD. That is because you can only have, you can't have the same page displayed on both of your displays. But we'll put that one back there, and then this defaults to blank if you remove that. Our HSD, same thing like we talked about earlier, is the HSD there. DTE, mentioned that earlier. Test page, same with that, and then the FLICUS page, which is basically non-functional in our F-16 here. And I think that actually just about sums it up. Not too complicated, I know I went through it fairly quickly. I will just review again what I think are the most important pages that you are definitely going to use. SMIS page you will definitely use, especially if you are in air-to-ground mode, for example. When you do that, the SMIS page changes, and also when you go into the different master modes, you get a few different things. I just clicked the air-to-ground override button, ICP master mode button, put me into air-to-ground. By default, it pulls up the terrain following, or not the terrain following radar, the air-to-ground radar on the FCR page. It also sets this SMIS page, and now you have all your different weapons that you can select, so you can power on your harms, you can select them, you show the stations that you have the weapons on and which one is selected, and swap them like that. Or by pressing the no-so steering button, you can swap them. It also puts the targeting pod here, but generally speaking, what I do is I swap whatever page, the test page or FLICUS page, I swap that out, put the targeting pod there, so then I can have the HSD on my right page, because I don't generally keep the SMIS page up, because I don't really feel that there's a need to once I have my weapons set up. And a useful thing that you can do with your DMS or data management switch is left and right on that will swap through your pages. So obviously for the respective ones, so DMS left will swap through my active pages or saved pages on the left MFD, and DMS right will swap through the pages on the right one. So you don't have to, look down and move your mouse to do that. So if I'm here and I just set up my harms, I have the things selected, then I can just do DMS right and swap back to my HSD, because that's going to show me more important information like data link contacts, other aircraft that are in the air, friendly or enemy, plus all my waypoints and all of my the maximum ranges of the SAMs that are in the area. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit distracted. So back to these pages, most important ones. Add is important if you are going to be employing harms with the harm targeting system. Again, that's the harm attack display. The fire control radar, always have that one up, at least as one of the saved ones. I generally use it mostly for the air-to-air role. I don't generally use the air-to-ground radar, but it is certainly useful. Targeting pod is also useful, as is weapon. Those are very important ones for employing various types of weapons. Terrain following radar and FLIR don't do anything. SMIS page is up by default. I don't generally use it to look at the stores that I have, because I can look out and see what's there, and I generally know what I put on my jet. But obviously in air-to-air or air-to-ground mode, it'll give you that slightly different display, which will show you the weapons that you have, and is important for configuring all of your weapons before you employ them. HSD, again, super important. I almost always have that up. And those are probably the most important one. Test and Flickus don't really do anything, Recce doesn't do anything, and then Reset just sets it back to the default. Or actually, correction, Reset isn't simulated in DCS. I'm not sure exactly what it does, but it doesn't really matter because we don't have it in DCS. So I think that just about covers this. Hopefully that was helpful at all, just a brief overview of the different displays that you can pull up in the F-16. Next video I will be going over the ICP and the DED, that's the Integrated Control Panel, and the Data Entry Display, and all of the different pages that are there for that. But anyway, as I said, hopefully this was helpful to you. If you want to consider liking or subscribing, and joining the Discord if you want any other help, want to ask any other further questions about the F-16. We have a bit of a small community at the moment that's growing. A lot of people passionate about DCS. Anybody who knows stuff about the F-16 would be happy to help you out. But anyway, I hope you have a good one, and I hope that I'll see you in the next video.